So, being Australian, I saw Brittany Higgins' case playing out in the news in Australia at the time, as well as Amber Heard's case in the US. I don't think anyone that owned a mobile phone and had social media at the time could avoid Amber's case because of the way it was proliferated on social media. And I remember feeling disturbed and uncomfortable with some of the misogynistic content and discourse around both of those cases. But it wasn't until I read How Many More Women that I understood the sort of global and legal context, and that these sorts of defamation suits are actually really common and are playing out all over the world. And that these high profile cases that we may have seen in the news are really just the tip of the iceberg. And I think that's when the opportunity presented itself to create a film that could really shed light on this issue and to tell these stories in a way that offered a new perspective and hopefully a more humanizing and empathic perspective on and show what people go through when they are subject to the court system in these types of cases. I can say that there was a rigorous process behind the scenes in every facet that went into this film because of the stakes for our participants and what they were risking in speaking to us. So we had a high level of security across every step of the process in the ways that we interviewed people and the research that went into those interviews and the training that we all went through to make sure we were, being trauma informed in our practice and in the ways that we were posing questions and in what areas of the story we focused on. And that process continued into the edit. And it was really a film that revealed itself to us in the material and through those interviews. Those interviews are the heart of the film. And also the book, How Many More Women, that was our North Star and our sort of guiding source material. So in some ways it was very well supported because we had that amazing reference material that had already been researched and legaled, and but in other ways it was a completely new process for, I think, everybody involved. I think in early conversations with our amazing cinematographer, Michael Latham, in deciding on an approach for our interviews, which was really again, just the starting point and the heart of the film, we thought about some of the logistical and practical requirements. These were going to be very long interviews. They needed to be intimate and comfortable and feel safe for our participants. And these are also participants who have experienced media harassment in the past, who've been on, under cross-examination in the past, often through multiple different court cases over many, many days, and have, associated trauma from those experiences. So we didn't want to put them back on the stand, and we didn't want to present them as being on the stand. This was, meant to be a look behind the scenes of these cases. And so that was how our single camera handheld interview approach came about, which was suggested by Michael, and I think was an incredibly intuitive and smart decision, and also brave for him because he operated that camera through those interviews of, I think the longest one was 7 hours. And it's having one angle on interviews is always a little bit scary as a documentary filmmaker, because you always want to have something to cut to if you need to cut things out, especially when, with legally risky subject matter, you always have to cut things out for the safety of participants. So that was a bold choice, but I think that it's a film about truth. And so wherever we had to, we left in the jump cuts. And so audiences, when they're watching the film, they can see that, what they're seeing is exactly what was said. And I think that that has led a style to the film that feels not only kind of truthful and raw, but also urgent. And I'm really proud of that approach. And I think that it was a new approach for me, and I think it works perfectly in this context. This was a very complex project, much more complex than things I've done in the past. We had, legal teams across every jurisdiction for every participant, and multiple stakeholders, as well as a internal production team that was just incredible and so rigorous. And um, I think that everybody would talk about just day to day. You'd have conversations in the hallway about how nice it was to come to work and spend time on something that felt really important and really urgent. And there were tears, there were days where it felt really heavy and like a burden to be working with this material, but it was a joy to come to work even on those hard days, because it really feels like these stories just need to be told and really want to be told. And no matter how difficult it felt to bear witness to these stories, if these women were brave enough to have lived through all of this and survived, and after everything they've been through, still sit down and talk to us, when every time that they speak, they face, further risk of legal action, then, we've got to keep going. And that responsibility was, it was an honor to be a part of. I think if there's one shift that I hope that silence can contribute to, it would really be a simple one. And I think that within professional circles that work in these spaces, gender-based violence, frontline workers, domestic violence workers, people in feminism and the law, they've known about this problem for a long time. And I think it's really up to the general public, people who might not think that this directly applies to them, to help shift the cultural conversation around the way that our culture deals, or treats women who speak out. And, we all have unconscious bias. It's human. But I hope that after watching this film, audiences can think about the ways that our unconscious bias might influence the ways that we perceive cases like this, and have conversations with friends and family about these issues. And next time that there's a case like Amber Heard's coming through the media, if there's a conversation around the kitchen table, you know, if you understand what we're saying with the film, and support the message, like share it with people, because not only can it help to change perspectives, but also you don't know who else might be sitting at that table who's been through something like this, who's never told anybody, and who will silently appreciate your support and your understanding. So, Jen, this is another thing that Jen says is, when it comes to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, if you write something nasty online about that case, they're never going to see it, or very unlikely to. But do you know who will see it? Is the woman or the person in your life who has experienced this type of violence and who's never told anybody. And do you think that she's going to come to you, or they're going to come to you and tell you and confide in you after they've seen the way that you've spoken about Amber Heard? No. So that's really something that everybody can do and participate in.